the Wednesday, April 6th meeting of the Fairfax County History Commission. And we're going to go through our audibility of members' voices. To conduct this meeting wholly electronically, the History Commission needs to make certain findings for the record to evidence our compliance with all applicable laws. These motions address this compliance. First, I'm going to conduct a roll call and ask each board member participating in this meeting to state your name and your location. I ask that each of you pay close attention to ensure that you can hear each of your colleagues. All right, Mary Lipsey.
Mary Lipsey from Braddock District.
Okay. Gretchen Bulova is excused. Sorry. Carol Herrick. Okay, we'll come back and see if Carol will find us later. Subi Madi.
Subi Mehdi, Dranesville District, McLean.
Okay. Oops, sorry. Reading this off of my phone. Elise Murray. Okay, we'll see if Elise will come back, join us later. Barbara Naif.
Barbara Naif, Hunter Mill, Ruston.
Okay. Ann Stuntz.
It's crossing the Rappahannock. Must be in Fredericksburg.
All right. Your reception may go in and out as you cross through cell phone.
You're right.
All right, Ann Stuntz. Steve Sherman.
Steve Sherman in Franconia, representing the Lee District.
Okay, thank you. Phyllis Walker Ford.
Phyllis Walker Ford, representing Lee District, Clifton.
Barbara Peters.
Barbara Peters, Mason District, Annandale.
Ann Barnes. Maybe Ann will join us later also. Was that Ann? Sally Lyons.
Sally Lyons in Colchester, Mount Vernon District.
Okay. Tammy Manorino.
Tammy Manorino, Mount Vernon District.
Sue Kovac Schumann.
Sue Kovac Schumann, Mantua Providence District.
Okay. Janae Lindner.
Hi, Janae Lindner, Fairfax, Virginia, Springfield District.
Jordan Tannenbaum. Jordan did send me an email saying that he might be late or may not be able to make it. Another competing event. Esther McCullough.
Esther McCullough, Sully District.
Robert Beach. So Bob might come in later. Lynn Garvey Hodge. Maybe Lynn will join us later as well. And David Meyer.
David Meyer, City of Fairfax.
Okay. All right, thank you, David. All right. So yeah, it's unusual for us to have quite so many people not here. But so our next story, the need for an electronic meeting. Second, I move that the History Commission certify that the state of emergency caused by the COVID-19 pandemic makes it unsafe for this commission and the public to physically attend this meeting in person, and the usual procedures cannot be implemented safely or practically. As a result, I further move that the Fairfax County History Commission conduct this meeting electronically through a dedicated video and audio conferencing line, and that the public may access this meeting by calling 1-571-429-5982. Hope that's accurate. And conference ID 523-4 276-015. Can I get a second? Oh, wait,
Yes.
I have to hand that gavel over to somebody, don't I, in order to be able to hear these make these motions.
I caught it. Cheryl.
Thank you.
How's
Thank you, Barbara. All right.
Which means
So,
you can't second it, so somebody else
I'll
has to
second that.
okay, thank you. That was Mary. Let's see. Okay, Barbara, I'll let you call the vote.
And all in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? All right, motion carries. Proceed.
Thank you. Finally, I move that the History Commission certify that matters on its agenda today relate to the COVID-19 emergency itself, are necessary for continuity in Fairfax County government, and or are statutorily required or necessary to continue operations and the discharge of the History Commission's lawful purposes, duties, and responsibilities.
Second,
That was Esther.
yes.
Barbara?
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? None? You may proceed.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Here's your gavel.
Thank you. I appreciate that back. Yeah, I apologize if I'm a little discombobulated this evening. I'm doing some spring camp this week, and so I'm in some rather long days, and I just got in from work. All right. So I need a motion to approve the minutes and pay the clerk.
This is Esther. I move that we approve the minutes and pay the clerk.
Second.
Barbara seconds. Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. All right. Treasurer's report, Sue.
Thank you. I trust that everyone did see it on SharePoint. We had, besides paying Elliot, a small amount of interest last month. So our county balance is $56,114. And the Park Authority History Conference account, 2 honorariums were paid, and they were $100 each. We still have $2,021.76 to carry over and to use for this year's history conference. I have some questions, but I believe that's probably for Elise or Cheryl off this meeting about other expenses that we might have, since I have not really seen the fiscal year budget ever. And I'd like to discuss outreach and markers and things like that. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. All right. And I see that Bob has joined us. Bob, can we just do a voice check with you?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, great. Thank you, Bob. All right.
Too, Cheryl. I just got in.
Lynn, thank you.
Yeah,
Welcome.
that's right. It took me about 20 minutes. I had to reinstall all kinds of stuff. Anyway.
Oh my gosh.
Well, I was without
Okay,
everything
Carol's here.
on me for 3 days, the end of March, and I'm still reactivating all kinds of things that I lost. So.
Okay. And I just
Carol is here.
Yeah, Carol, can we do a voice check with you as well? Carol Herrick.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, now we got it. Okay,
Okay,
great.
I had a
Thank you.
hard time getting in. Okay.
Apparently, a number of people have been having difficulty. All right. Thank you. Glad to have everybody join us. All right, so we're going to proceed to staff reports. Is it Amy or Liz tonight, this evening?
I'm making a special return guest appearance because Amy and her children are on spring break.
That's right. Thank you. I forgot to
Okay,
change that.
good to be here. We have a somewhat abbreviated list of report this month. We're pleased to announce that we're going to be launching a newsletter beginning in April. I believe it's going to come out in about another week. And we're using, to produce this, we're using the Park Authority's new marketing and communication software called Acoustic. A number of folks on staff have been trained in this. And the software allows the users to opt out of communications more easily if they don't want to be part of it anymore. But it also allows staff to monitor what items the users are looking at and are finding particularly interesting. So it gives, on both ends, it gives more ability to be able to track. Archaeology and Collections Branch staff was part of an interview process for the Department of Planning and Development's new Plan 3. And we look forward to working with the candidate once a hiring decision is made. Archaeology staff provided oversight for the return and restoration of Francis Summers' headstone at the Summer Cemetery. This work has been done in partnership with the Henry Clay and Thomas Lee chapters of the National Society of the Daughters of the American Revolution, as well as with the Sons of the American Revolution and the Fairfax County Cemetery Preservation Association. And an unveiling of the marker and the new park sign will be held on April 30th at 11 a.m. at the cemetery. And members of our staff, as well as the area crews, have been working to clean up the cemetery, get the fences painted, etc., so that it'll be looking good when that takes. Continuing on, field work has started up again among the bluebells at Riverbend Park. And during the winter, staff was able to catch up on the lab work, GIS data enrichment, collections management, and reporting for that, and are glad to be back in the field. So we're very pleased with that as well. Staff is going to be on hand this coming weekend for the Bluebells Bend Festival. Heather Hembry is going to be representing the Archaeology Collections Branch table out there. And there are 2 ticketed sessions for that, 10 to and noon to 2. So tickets are in advance date. So those are the things that were on our what we had planned as well. We're continuing to work with the planning and development staff in planning, improving the finances for the
Did we lose her?
comments. I'm glad to address them.
I think we might have missed the very last item that you reported on.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. I said staff is, we're working with planning and development staff to finalize the plans for the proposed collections facility.
Okay. And speaking, so are there any questions for Liz? I know that Sally has an item to bring up related to Liz's report.
Yes. As you know, it's the budget season. And Park Authority is being somewhat underfunded this year to the extent that the various friends groups have formed their own alliance to lobby for more funding. There's a particular hit, though, on the archaeological and collections thing. Biggest danger lies in the proposal to move the bond cycle from 4 to 6 years. The building of the Archaeology and Collections Facility was scheduled to be included in the next bond in 2024. The design has been completed. The branch has held $8 million in reserve from the last bond towards the build, but they'll need $4 million more at least for construction, according to the last projection. If bond funding is put off from 2024 to 2026, or even worse, 2032, inflation could vastly increase the cost, redesign might be necessary, and the project could collapse. This sort of thing has happened before. In 2026, the American Association of Museums will begin the process of reaccreditation of the ACB. The last accreditation was dependent upon the building of the projected new facility to house the archaeological collections and museum collections. So if this comes into question, the program could lose its accreditation, which would lead to a whole cascade of very unfortunate events. So I have a motion that I would like to put out on the floor, that a letter be sent to the chairman of the Board of Supervisors stating that the History Commission advocates for funding of the build of the Archaeology and Collections Facility at Lorton, whether by maintaining the current 4-year bond cycle for the Park Authority with a bond issue on the ballot in 2024, or by direct funding for the actualization of the now completed design.
I second that motion. This is Tammy.
All right. Any discussion?
I'm sorry, Cheryl, could someone just repeat the motion, please? I kind of lost.
It's long.
Sure, Sally,
Okay.
could you repeat that, please?
Yeah. That a letter
that was just fast.
Okay, yeah, that a letter be sent to the chairman of the Board of Supervisors stating, the History Commission advocates for funding of the build of the Archaeological and Collections Facility at Lorton, whether by maintaining the current 4-year bond cycle for the Park Authority with a bond issue on the ballot in 2024, or by direct funding for the actualization of the now completed design.
So are we just offering support?
We're asking them to fund, to not put off the building of the facility until a bond in 2026.
I see. Okay.
Which could then have the building not starting until heavens 7/28, you know.
Okay. So this is just part of our advocacy, right?
This is our advocacy, and it feeds into the budget process, which is ongoing. The hearings are next week.
Okay.
So,
okay. I get it. Sorry. Kind of slow.
It's complicated.
Barbara.
I will just add one thing, and that is that this is an issue that has been around for literally decades, as far as attempts to get a proper collections facility. And so at this point, the goal is to merge and bring together the archaeological and the artifact collections. Management's the same. You have different protocols because they're different kinds of material culture. But I will say that this has been an ongoing and long-term issue. So that's my comment.
And the county has already spent a considerable amount of money and time on the design. So if they don't build, they may lose their options, you know.
And I second it because I see the long-term damage that could be done by putting this off. Seems like there's some real consequences there.
I just realized this is a Park Authority discussion. I need to recuse myself.
Right.
So I'm going to hand that gavel back over to Lynn. Can you sort of manage, do the chairing for this portion of for this motion?
I'll be happy to. I am
Sure.
still trying to find things in my system that apparently are discombobulated. So yes, I would be
Yeah,
happy.
it's just a formality. I mean,
That's fine.
Everything's been fine, but I just, want to make sure that there's no question here.
Got it.
And it's possible with regard to the letter that perhaps Lynn needs to sign that as well. And,
right.
we can double check, but
yeah, I think that's probably appropriate. So I'm assuming that that Sally would draft the letter for Lynn's signature.
Happy to do that. Okay, so we need a motion for this, or is it just, get me caught up here. for a second.
Sorry,
Fine.
Lynn. So there's a motion on, there is a motion on the floor. We're in discussion at the moment. Barbara Nafe, are you still wanting to comment?
No, I offered the comment. Oh, I didn't take my hand down. I'm sorry.
Okay,
Whatever.
that's all right.
No, my only comment was that this is a long-term issue in the past, and my previous relations with the Park Authority means that I am not involved in this item.
And Lynn, just to explain, the motion is that the commission draft a letter to the chairman requesting that that funding for the collections facility be either maintained on the current 4-year bond cycle or be directly funded in order to maintain the project.
Okay. All right. So is our discussion done? Everything's done? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Did I hear an opposed? Okay, motion carried. You want the gavel back?
Yep, I'll take that gavel back. Thank you. And we'll figure out how that letter gets sent. I think it might have to go out under your signature, Lynn.
That's fine. That's fine. Just send it electronically and we'll get an electronic signature on it if need be.
I'll send it.
Sounds good. All right. Heritage Preservation Branch.
Hi, everyone. Stephanie Langton here. Can you all hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Thanks.
Okay. Just a few updates from the Heritage Conservation Branch. Development of under operations and maintenance, development of a treatment plan is underway for the Lamond House, and staff is also reviewing proposals submitted for the development of a historic structure report and treatment plan for 2 recently acquired properties, Fairfax Arms and Union Farm. Wood window repairs at Ash Grove will begin this month and go through July with funds awarded through the Environmental Improvement Program for projects related to historic house efficiency improvements. Under Historic Sites Volunteer Corps, the next HSVC event is a landscape cleanup scheduled for Saturday, April 9th at Laurel Hill Golf Course and Barn. And finally, for resident curator program updates, White Gardens has had several virtual meetings of its evaluation team. One actually this morning, April 6th, and the next is scheduled for April 20th, during which the evaluation team will score the application for curatorship that's currently under consideration. Public comments are due in writing to Park Mail at fairfaxcounty.gov by April 13th. And these meetings are open to the public, though there are no public comments taken during that time. So information for how to join the meeting on the 20th will be available on our RCP website. Also available on our RCP website is a recording of the public hearing that was held on March 29th, during which the applicant presented her proposal for consideration. And like I said, that can be found online as well, along with the application itself. And that's all I have tonight. Are there any questions?
All right.
Thank you.
Cheryl, I believe you muted yourself.
You did.
Sorry about that. there are advantages to these kinds of meetings, but man, that mute.
Danger.
Chris, you're up next.
Oh, good evening. Brief report. We are now back to regular hours in the library, not just here in the Virginia room, but all across the system. We're open Mondays and Sundays again. So come on out to the Virginia room on Sunday if you've got nothing better to do. One of our staff members, Elaine McRae, was one of 17 FCPL librarians that was an award winner. She won an annual FCPL Board of Trustees Staff Excellence Award. So we were super excited about that. If you love CPAN, you're about to love it even more because we are now getting a designated terminal for the public to access CPAN. So right now, and for those of you who aren't familiar with what CPAN is, it's the county's digital database, the courthouse's database of searching for deeds and wills and all that stuff from all the way back to 1742. And right now, the only way to access it is if you have a paid subscription or if you go to the courthouse, which you have to go through security, and it's only open Monday through Friday. So now it'll be the public can actually access it on weekends. So we are working on getting that set up. It's not ready yet, but that is a work in progress. And then 2 additions for the collections. The Springfield Acres Garden Club, they donated their scrapbooks to us, go all the way back to the 1950s. And just yesterday, Alan Fogg from the Fairfax County Economic Development Authority found in a closet a ton of slides and VHS tapes and Betamax and other obsolete formats of video footage of the county from like the 70s and 80s and 90s. So that'll be fun going through that. And that is the extent of the report.
Wow, sounds good.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun. Anybody have any questions or comments for Chris?
Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you, Chris.
All right, thank you all for coming out. Denise, your report.
Hi, everybody. Oh,
I see a chair.
I know. Now you see me.
There you are.
I had my camera covered. Anyway, so sorry. So my report. The first is the Holland Hills potential, which should no longer say potential. It should say the Holland Hills Historic Overlay District in the Mount Vernon District. Woo-hoo, was approved on March 8th by the Board of Supervisors unanimously. And thank you very much for the History Commission's support of that effort. Not only did you write a letter of support, you also contributed commission time to the work group, and we appreciate that. It was a long haul. I think that was a 4-year study, long time. So I'd also like to call the History Commission's attention to the fact that the boundary of the inventory historic district was made in conformance to the new historic overlay district boundary. So those 2 boundaries are now the same. So when people go on to their the DTA's website to look up their iCare information, the tax information will be corresponding. They'll have both of those radio buttons checked that yes, it's in a historic overlay district, and yes, it's an inventory on the inventory of historic sites. So, and if you have any further questions, you can reach out to me or Laura. Either one of us would be happy to talk to you about that. The Holmes Run Acres Potential HOD, we are still meeting with the work group. The next work group meeting is scheduled for April 20th at 6:30. We're continuing our conversation about the community poll, which we are conducting on behalf of the Civic Association, and we'll also be talking about that district's boundaries. We anticipate public hearings later in this year, probably late this year. The big news is on April 1st, staff submitted the application to the Virginia Department of Historic Resources to their cost share grant program for a county-wide selective survey of mid-century architectural resources. This application was truly a team effort, with the History Commission supporting the required matching funding, along with the Architectural Review Board, and the Virginia Room assisting in the identification of the resources to be surveyed, and the Virginia chapter of the AIA assisting in drafting the background, context, and scope for the survey. So thank you all for your support and for your for your monetary support as well. That was greatly appreciated. So between all of us, the DPD, the Architectural Review Board, and the History Commission, we have $30,000 to contribute to this effort. So we're asking VDHR for $16,200 in matching grants. VDHR has been very positive when I've spoken to them about this survey. This is part of their priorities, this time period and this architectural type. It's something that's missing out of our surveyed sites. So it's a state priority as well. So I feel very good about it and hope to have some news for you at the next meeting. Moving on, McMillan Farm mitigation. Ann Stuntz, representing the History Commission, and staff have been further contacted by Dovetail Consulting concerning the interpretive installation called for in the MOA, and Ann's provided them additional information on, I think they were looking for photographs, old photographs that the community had contributed when this redevelopment was happening. So I think it might turn out to be a nice installation. Of course, nothing compared to the resource itself. So, and then finally, the original Mount Vernon High School. I've been reporting to you all about that. The applicant, which is the Board of Supervisors, has submitted their application for final review and recommendation to the Architectural Review Board for the repurposing of the original Mount Vernon High School. That's going to the ARB on April 14th. And I don't have the board and PC hearing dates yet, but if you're interested, I can certainly provide those at a later date. And that is my report.
Okay, thank you, Denise. Any comments or questions for Denise?
I just wanted to comment that I looked at the list, the mid-century buildings, and so it's a lot of fun to be looking here, going down the highway and looking at these shopping centers and things and not knowing the history after all these years. So thank you. That was a lot of fun. I think you worked real hard on all that. I have no idea. There's so much here that some of us just thought were ugly buildings, and they're not.
You do start to see them through a different light, don't you? Yeah.
Yeah. It was very thorough. All of my favorite, mid-century buildings, I was like, is the orthodontist's office on there? Yes, it was on there, all of them. You guys, you did a really thorough job of it. It was great.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much. And Chris, it was a huge support for that. So kudos to him. Yeah.
It was a fun list. Thank you.
Well, thank you all very much for looking over the list and for supporting us in all of these efforts. Really can't do it without you.
All right. Sorry, go ahead, Barbara.
Oh, I'm sorry. Denise, this is a question. I may have missed it. Where are we on the survey for the African American communities?
Yeah. I don't really have an official update, Barbara, but I do know that Mary Ruffin is coming up tomorrow, actually, to finish up the last of the survey. But that's kind of she just let me know that she was going to be in town. No official update.
Okay, and I did send you something about a little addendum about the question I was asked about the Cartersville, and I sent you an email somewhere in your thousands of email.
No, and I did forward it to her. Thank you so much. Yes, of course. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Great.
Appreciate it. No, and I really appreciate the History Commission's support for that survey as well.
It's important. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yes, you all
right.
have been called on many times to help us with that. I can't thank you enough.
It's new. It's so old that it's new. You know, it hasn't been recorded before, so it's great.
All right. Okay. Any further comments or questions?
Did you mention the Cartersville Baptist Church?
Yes, sir.
Just as a arcane footnote, in 1988 or 89, I think it was 88, a student at Langley High School in the advanced placement history
Right.
did a oral interview of a lot of members in 1988, and her paper and her notes for all of that are still available. If
Are they?
anybody's interested.
Where are they in the Virginia room, or where are they?
I think they're in the Virginia room. I haven't looked at them since 1991, 1990, but of course the young woman who did this is probably 48 years old now. But I just wanted you to know that had occurred before a lot of people who were members there passed. So
Wonderful. And if there's that's why I ask if it's a place where we can list it on our inventory of, we have a whole section that deals with publications or with references and documents. And it would be wonderful to be able to include those if they are in a public.
I will look that up and send you that information.
Appreciate that, David. Thank you very much.
Okay.
David, do you remember the person's name who did the interviews?
No.
Okay.
No, I did speak with her. I was doing some research, and she was a college freshman at the time.
Okay.
And but I know where to go to look it up.
Okay.
That would be wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, that's cool. All right, thank you. All right, if we're proceeding along to unfinished business, the first item I have listed is the Fairfax County Courthouse. So you may remember a few months back, we received, we took a look at the courthouse. There's concern about the masonry of the original facade, particularly the front that gets a lot of weather exposure. And we had a little PowerPoint where we had gone and taken photographs so you could see the damage, and we all agreed to write a letter to the Board of Supervisors asking that they attend to this. And there actually had been an architectural survey done by professionals who indicated that this masonry on this particular side of the building was of immediate concern, and that it needed attention. I shared with you Chairman McKay's reply to our letter, and so the question is, which basically said that they weren't going to do anything different than what they had already planned. So it was a sort of a not, basically, that's interesting, thank you, but no, we're not going to change our plans. So so the question emerges whether the conditions are not changed. Heather has gone ahead and taken some estimates from some folks about at least doing some basic repairs, and they're like they're $55,000 to $60,000. So in the scope, in the range of what construction costs often, cost, not that expensive. I was surprised actually that it was that low, but that's what she says. So I just don't, just wanted to bring it back to the commission to consider whether or not you wanted to take any further action. Sure, go ahead, Barbara.
Yes, I think this is critical, and I've sort of suggested if we can check with Preservation Virginia or someplace where we can get a grant, seek a grant. I don't know, David, what you think about it, but for them to just ignore this 1800 building that can you know, it's serious. It's an important cultural resource, and they just, you know, I'm surprised because that's not very much money. So I'm not sure what initiative we could take, but I do think we should pursue it in one way or another. And that was my question, is whether we could, there would be a way of getting a grant, or if David, if you have thoughts. I know it's a county building, but it's in your city and it's important. So raising questions.
I see that Sue has her hand up. I will respond that all they have to do is look one block east and see the column that fell off of Old Town Hall,
right,
as an example of what can happen. And we thought we were being good stewards of the building. That's the irony.
Mm-hmm.
So even people who are considered, who perceive themselves as being good stewards, can in fact be in a tough situation. I think that there are possibilities, and I was going to report on a successful effort, and I'll report, I guess, that later on. But what did Chairman McKay say why he was saying no, or to the immediate intervention?
So he didn't. He just said it was more like that they are in their plans with regard to the overall renewal of that area of the courthouse complex, that they would be, that's when it would be addressed.
I understand. Well, they're a good 5 years at minimum away from that. Yeah. There, as you all know, there's a working committee. And Sue, is that what you were going to talk about? Yeah,
well,
there is
I'll say there was a working committee, but yes, we need to get the Providence supervisor energized about this, because she can be very influential with the chair, as you know. I also have a question, David. Yeah, and I'm aware of what's happening down there. Yeah, the town hall, it's so close. We need to do something, and we need to do it soon. Has it ever been possible, since the county gives the History Commission a little bit of money, which we have, and I don't know how it should get spent, that we can kind of say, hey, we're going to commit this year a certain amount of money. I mean, it's the county's own money, but they're giving it to us towards that project, because we do have $50-some thousand. Has that been done? Why can't we? It kind of kickstarts the county, get thinking about matching at least that much or something.
Well, I don't know if I have the floor or not, but I will tell you that all of us probably understand that the 48 acres of the campus is in the Providence district. And so Dahlia Palchek is in fact the first stop. And Sue, you have this rapport with her, of course. I'd be willing to talk with her as well. The working committee for the entire Judicial campus project has a master plan that will be implemented in phases. As we all have discussed previously, so I'll do this briefly, the northeast quadrant of the 48 acres is the historic zone. There's a plan to move the Legato School to that vicinity. There's a plan to take off the the 3-story jail addition on the back of the courthouse, and take that off and reposition and put the Legato School over there. And I think that the chairman is thinking that when they take that building off, they would also do the repointing and the restructuring of the whole building, the 1800 part of it, as well as the 1928 part. And then there was also some discussion about the stone wall. And as we've discussed that previously, taking it down and moving it back. So I do think, though, that we need to, if we press Supervisor Palchek on the urgency of this, I don't think that it's mutually exclusive. I think that some intervention can be done more than just emergency cosmetic, but less than possibly a full-scale restoration of the arches. But I think having a conversation with her sooner than later would be appropriate. I think everyone's aware that the courthouse arch, the portico itself, was reinforced with a steel plates in an L-shaped 90-degree that go up about 12 feet on each corner. This was done within the last 3 years, 4 years, I should say. That from my perspective is unacceptable. It certainly was needed, but from a restoration perspective, it's really not the appropriate way to do it. So we need to have that conversation. But Sue, you were going to say something.
Well, I agree. We don't need a Band-Aid approach, which is what we're doing. And I think that the next step is taking Supervisor Paulchek there and showing her some of this, which I could arrange with Heather, Cheryl, you, David, and a few people. I think she'd be on board because she doesn't know. She goes by it. And who would be the best person from the county? Well, that may not be the best person. What historic preservation person can we ask to come with us to point those things out?
I would say, I think the best person would be Doug Gilpin.
Okay. Okay. Let me see what we can do. And if we can arrange something like that, let me know who all would like to come. And we will get that done sooner rather than later, because you can't just keep kicking this one down the road. That's just not going to work for safety reasons.
Sue, go ahead and put me on the list too, okay? That's Janae Lindner.
Okay.
Thanks.
So actually, Janae, oh, sorry. Yes, that's Bob. Okay. Thank you, Bob. Janae, aren't you, is there a friends group for the courthouse?
Yes, I'm president of the Friends of the Historic Fairfax Courthouse. Yes, I certainly am.
Well, how would you like to take the lead with me on putting this together?
Sure. And the nice thing is that's why we're in existence. We are a nonprofit, so that if there are some grants out there, that's the very reason why we exist.
I was going to say, Mary's been holding up her hand.
Oh, thank you. I can't really see that, but go ahead. Thank you, Mary.
I don't have a chat possibility. I don't know why, but when Heather first mentioned this, I was over at the courthouse. I spend time around there, and just chunks of mortar are falling out, between the bricks, etc. And what I'm concerned about is when all this master plan starts going and the vibrations of construction vehicles, and there's already trucks going up and down Main Street and all that, that you're going to have vibration that's going to bring more stuff down. And we had that in a cemetery out in Centerville. We believe it was just the construction trucks going by and an obelisk just collapsed, it had been up for 100 years. So I just like to put in my 2 cents on that too, that it is imminent. It's not something that should be waiting for the master plan to get started.
Well, what is the possibility, David, of having that area temporary 15-mile-an-hour speed limit? I'm serious. Through that area, people go much faster than that every day, but what would that take?
It's muted.
There's time during the day when it really is only 15 miles an hour.
Right. No, we believe that the collapse of the portico columns on Old Town Hall was in part because of its close proximity to University Drive traffic. It wasn't the sole contributor, but it was a contributor. And the courthouse traffic, it's more affected by the east-west traffic on Main Street, because it's really not more than about 50 feet from the curb. Yeah. And you're correct, we can talk about that. There also is a proposal coming before the city council to redevelop the parking lot on the west end of the Bank of America building across the street. And that construction would have a serious threat to the courthouse. I don't believe that the city council is going to approve that. However, there is a possibility.
You had brought up that possibility of that bank parking lot being constructed, I think, here 2 months.
Right. Well, we had a presentation to the council since, well, it was 2 weeks ago. So there are things that are moving quickly in the courthouse area, and we need to be very mindful of that.
Is the traffic that you've talked about having an impact just regular cars, or is this truck traffic?
It's more of the latter than the former, the trucks primarily.
Is there any way to block off the area from truck usage?
I don't know. Realistically, I don't know, but I will look into it.
Include some rerouting for sure, and it would perhaps anger people, but this building, a lot of people don't know the history of it. It's worth it.
Correct.
I'll also add, Sue, that I did reach out to Chris Daniels for the chair of the ARB, just to see what his thoughts were and what they, just updating him as well. And we were talking about possibly writing another letter, but I'm sure he would also be interested in this, and we can loop him in as well.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, letters in writing are fine, but if you take people and show them,
yeah. No, I think
more action. And of course, we'll invite chair.
I do believe it might be helpful at some point in 2022 for the commission to receive a briefing on the entire judicial center, the judicial campus master plan. And I had that briefing probably 2 years ago, and a lot has changed in that plan since then. And I think it would be very helpful to all members of the commission to get an update as to where the county is with their planning efforts. And Rachel Flynn and some of her subordinates have been working on this pretty much full time. So I think I would be willing to work with Cheryl to find a time where we could have that briefing. And if we start meeting again in person, that might be an effective time to have that presentation.
We did have some presentations a while back, but if it's changed over the last couple of years, yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Maybe Denise can help us with that.
I thought I saw something in the last year, but it must have been some other group and not this one.
No, we did have a presentation because there were a lot of questions, but I just, whether we have to sort of embarrass the county that this is the county courthouse and it's, it's 18th century, 19th, 1800, and it's falling down. And so we need emergency stabilization. And that includes the repointing and everything. It's not something that we can wait on. It's not routine, it's emergency. And that communication, whether you can have the trust say that or the Preservation Virginia say that or whatever, VDHR, whoever you can get outside people to come in and say this is it's in a precarious situation. That's all I would urge. So.
It may not be able to wait till the rest of the work is done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what we're concerned about.
I think
we did say immediate a lot in our letter. I'm sorry, there's somebody else I know who's speaking, and I know Lynn has her hand up and Janae also.
And Tammy.
Oh, okay, and then Tammy. All right, so
Just
Lynn, you want to go ahead?
Sure, just a quickie. It would seem to me that we could use social media to our huge advantage here. Even just an article in the Washington Post, it almost seems like a cover page for the style section, and really bring a lot of attention to this. I think that, and just get it on the local news. Anyway, I think getting the word out and educating the public is going to be really important.
I think you mean the Metro section.
Metro section. Oh, yes, of course. I mean, the Metro section. Yeah, style would be kind of silly, but thanks, Esther. Yeah, that I think some kind of media attention to this would be wonderful.
I think one important piece of this is Heather. Heather is really the person that's in charge of the whole thing. And so we would need to meet with her. She may have some of her own ideas. It may be worthwhile for her to come and give a presentation of some kind. She's very capable. She knows exactly what she's doing in there. And she's a good ally to have for something like this. And but anyway, I just wanted to bring that up, that whatever directions we go, I think Heather needs to be copied on everything. Like Sue, if you and I are going to go talk to Supervisor Palchak, I think Heather needs to be
I agree.
At least told that we're going to do that, and more importantly, probably have her
want to be with us, I think,
because
too.
ultimately she's the designated employee that's in charge of that, and she does a good job. She just does.
Oh, she does. She's fabulous. I totally agree. So
okay,
let's
I
talk
just wanted to
tomorrow.
bring up that piece.
We're going to, we'll do something on this and then try to get this moving. Thank you.
But yeah, also Tammy wanted to make a comment. Or
I was just
ask
going to
a
weigh in. I
question?
think these are all just terrific ideas, and I think Supervisor Palchik, that's something very near term, you know, to leverage her on this issue. And I'll also just put in a bid. Subi will probably talk about it later, but the annual report, we're going to have an opportunity for Cheryl to be standing in front of the Board of Supervisors in June, and it's very hard to make that point in front of them and for them to say, you know, we're tabling that for now. I think it's just another good opportunity. So I say do all of it.
Mm-hmm.
What day in June?
Agree.
It would be the 26th, I believe, but we don't. It's tentative at this point. So.
Well, that's a Sunday if it's June.
Oh, okay. That's just that was my memory then. But it's the latter meeting that they have in June. They meet twice a month, typically. I don't know if we need a motion to go ahead and do this. All right, I see a lot of heads shaking. So, all right, we will just proceed as Sue has suggested. We'll start with that. And then we'll go from there. All right. Okay. The next item are those wonderful Teams accounts. And, you know, I sort of, we interrupted, I kind of, you know, tabled the conversation last month just because I wanted to get a few more details in terms of pricing and information. So it was just a matter of just trying to decide which, and I'm trying to share my screen. Here you go. So this is the cost for the 3 different levels, essentials, basic, and business standard. This is what it would cost for 6 accounts. And Esther, I remembered to include you this time. Esther, Ann, Elise, Gretchen, Mary, and Lynn. So it would be $288 for the basic, and then sorry, for the essentials, $360 for basic, and if everyone had the standard, it would be $900. And I've asked a couple of times and have been getting yes answers pretty consistently. that we can mix and match, at least at those two higher business levels, so that if we had 5 basic business account users, we could also have 1 or 2, however many teams, standard ones, so you can, mix and match these levels. And so for 5 business basic and 1 business standard, that would be $450 a year. And here's just some of the summary with the very low, the lower level one. You can use your own email. For the other 2, you would get an email with a specific domain. So it would be like at History Commission, something. The time limit for meetings is 30 hours. The number of people is 300 people. You get more file storage. You get a terabyte of file storage, which we will never use. The advantage of that business standard, the most expensive one, is that you get desktop versions of Publisher, Word, PowerPoint, Excel, and Outlook. You get webinar hosting, attendee reservation reporting tools. Basic, you get the transcripts, and also at the higher level, the standard. Oops, sorry. Shoot. Bring that over. And then breakout rooms with the other 2 as well. Not that we particularly use those, but. So, any sense about what you all would like?
Cheryl, can you scoot up
And let me
the
yeah, sure,
picture a little bit? I've lost the bottom of it, and I can't quite see what the lines 10 through 13 or 14 say.
10, 13, 14. Here we go.
Okay. Oh, beyond that, it goes even beyond that. Okay. Desktop versions. Okay. I mean, this has a lot of appeal for conference use, obviously.
Yeah, which is why I considered the possibility of sort of mixing and matching.
Yeah. Thank you.
So, not all of us may need that level. And I also took a look at what, say, Publisher would cost on its own, and it's like $160. So a subscription per year. So this is the 150 for Team Standard actually is a good deal.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
This is Esther. If we were to get the combination, I think that would do us justice, because we're talking about using it for monthly meetings as well as committee meetings and possibly the conference.
Yeah, I think for the monthly meeting, we'll probably continue to use this account, which is DPD's, I guess, or Denise's, I suppose. But potentially, I mean, I don't. I think
Would
yeah,
we
I think for
still
the monthly
have
meeting.
access? I thought we were on our own.
I mean, for the monthly meeting, I think it will remain the way it's been. It's the committee meetings that would change, and so that's why we're moving towards these towards having this account for ourselves, so that we can organize our own committee meetings without having a staff member present. Sort of more like committee meetings in person, or like we don't have a staff person there.
Well, I would personally suggest including that standard in some form, because the publisher is really the tool to use to do those brochures and things like that.
Yes.
Word is for words. It does not like pictures. It just wants words.
Yeah, it gets mad.
And when you start working with it, it's a real pain.
Yep.
Any other comments or questions or suggestions, or do we? you know, I don't, I was hoping that Elise would be here in terms of our budget.
Is this all assuming we will continue to meet virtually and not in person?
There is a lot, so we can continue to meet at least partially virtually, even once the state of emergency ends. We might not be able to meet wholly electronically, but we could meet hybrid. Although in order to meet the FOIA requirements currently for hybrid meetings, we would need to have a quorum physically present, but then at least you could have people who couldn't make it physically, one or two people, calling in and being visually present via this medium. There is, however, been talk among the Board of Supervisors, because this has been so helpful for so many of the boards and commissions that are out there, and so useful to have this sort of virtual meeting, that they are looking into the possibility of being able to continue to meet wholly electronically if people so chose, whatever, if they wanted to.
So choose.
So choose.
Yeah. Well, with this BA.2 looking like it's on the rise, I wouldn't be too hasty to say we might not go into another emergency
right
kind of lockdown. My doctor just told me yesterday to get my 4th booster as soon as possible.
David, what is the city doing? Is it meeting in person? Commissions and the council?
Interesting that you should ask. We are now meeting in person, and as of this week, we lifted the emergency order. We still allow people to people can participate up to 2 meetings a year for personal reasons, or they can also be absent for a health reason or a health reason of their immediate family. But the emergency order is lifted right now. However, we do have some commissions that tend to be have more older persons and possibly at a higher risk category. So there's still some are still meeting virtually. It's a vexing challenge to try and find the right appropriate balance. There's no right answer.
I think Alexandria did go back to in-person for a lot of things just this week.
Correct. But the council is meeting in person now.
Personally, I feel that if things go totally in person, I will have to resign. I don't think it's fair to hold the position and not attend and participate. And if we need to go in person, especially for the main meetings, that would be my personal option because of my health. Mm-hmm. If we could still have the committee meetings by teams, that would be advantageous for the members as a whole, because going out at night and trying to get there in the traffic and get there from work, it presents problems.
Yes.
And you don't have the attendance that you would have virtually.
I want to clarify for you, Esther, that if we switch like next month to in-person meetings for our monthly meeting, people could still participate via Teams for health reasons. That is part of our policy that we have adopted. So you could remain and not attend in person.
Thank you.
Just as long as we have a physical quorum present in the room.
Cheryl, I have a question about that. So when you say because of health, are you defining what that means? Like chronic issues?
So there is no, the policy just says health. It doesn't say, and it says the health of the individual or the health of a family member. So it doesn't specify, you know, you need a doctor's note or a particular set of conditions or anything like that. It just says health.
And is it for like so the person can be excused for up to 3 meetings or is it for forever?
So no, for health reasons, that's indefinite. If you just don't feel like driving tonight kind of thing, you can, or you have something else, like Jordan has something else this evening, you can, well, that's a bad example. If for some reason you can't attend in person and you opt to attend virtually for personal reasons, you can do that for up to that has the number of times specified, and it's like a quarter of the meetings. So for 12 monthly meetings, you know, it's 3. I'm doing my math right, whatever. So you can participate virtually that many times.
Thank you.
Cheryl, I think you're doing really well for doing camp all day.
I was up at 6 o'clock this morning and I walked a creek.
Wow.
with 11 kids. Denise.
Yeah, I was just going to clarify, and I think you did a fine job, Cheryl, about the remote meetings policy. I called it up just in case there were any more. I called up the exact language just in case there were any more questions about it. But I think you've answered the question. So.
Unmute, Cheryl. Unmute.
Sorry, I was actually just talking to myself at that point. I didn't realize my lips were moving quite so much. So does anyone wish to make a motion with regard to the Teams accounts and the purchasing of a subscription for the History Commission?
Can we have your slide again?
Absolutely.
To word the motion.
Cheryl, I have an administrative question. Does the whole commission need to vote on it, or can the executive committee make a decision? I mean, do we need to have a motion on things like this?
On expenses, we generally work as a whole.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I see.
Yeah. Anything. Isn't the cutoff something like $500? I may be wrong about that. I wish Ann were here to confirm from the bylaw.
Sounds right.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a specification like that in the bylaws, Lynn. But
I
think
inserted that in there, but Elise would know too.
But I think we have a general practice of having the commission as a whole vote on money issues.
It's a little thing, Cheryl. Just make sure Elise's name is spelled correctly in item 7.
Oh yeah, that's Elsie.
Yeah, it is.
That's not good.
We were thinking of Paula Elsie is probably what. There you go.
That's better. I'll make a motion.
Yeah.
I move that we purchase Teams as a mixed cost for 5 basic and 1 standard accounts, and the amount of $450.
I'll second.
Nice.
That was Barbara Nave seconding.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Any further discussion?
I had a question.
I think that makes sense.
Is that Anne?
Yes.
Is my voice coming through?
Can't hear you, Anne.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Testing 1, 2, 3. Hello, hello.
Just barely. Go ahead. Go ahead, Anne.
Okay, so just a question. At some point, this was offered to us as a support from DPD. Is that gone? That support, and this is just us making the arrangements ourselves?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, initially DPD was going to provide us with a set, and then they saw how many users, and they thought that we could do it ourselves. And we could potentially build this into our budget request for future years.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. It's a good idea.
Any other discussion? Sorry, I'm going to stop sharing so I can actually see you all. There we go.
Well, it speaks to the times and the things that we've had to adjust.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's just a 1-year subscription, so if we find that things have changed, we can not renew it.
Yes. Yes. If we find it's not, we're not wedded to this in depth, forever. I mean, in fact, you can do a 1 month free subscription and then decide whether or not you want to continue. Lynn, go ahead.
I've been through an awful lot of webinars, both with Zoom. Zoom offers free webinars, and with my consulting practice. And I will tell you that I think American business is considering this kind of opportunity to work remotely as part of a new norm. I don't think we'll ever go back to in person.
Okay. All right. Any further discussion? Questions? All right. We'll call the vote then. All those in favor of purchasing a subscription for 5 basic and 1 standard Teams account in the amount of
$450.
Right. Signify by saying aye.
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 Any abstentions? Any objections? All right, the ayes have it then, motion passes. All right, and I will work with Denise or I will just reach out directly to Microsoft myself. And in fact, I've got a salesperson that I've been talking to, and we will proceed, and we'll DPD did offer to give us some training. Hopefully we can at least get that accomplished. Denise, do you think that's possible?
Yes, I definitely do. I also think that that conversation needs to happen with DPD around securing the accounts too, Cheryl. So if you'd like me to, I can facilitate that.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right, now let's proceed along then to new business. Sue, did you want to talk about Tinner Hill, or did you? So it's on the agenda, so let me go ahead and give the floor to you.
Yeah, I just wanted to briefly say too, I did not put anything in writing because I'm still waiting for an answer from the Tinner Hill Music Festival organizers on what, if any, the cost might be. For those, Cheryl and Anne and I have discussed this. I suggested that we do some outreach at the Tinner Hill Music Festival. And yes, I'm not on that advocacy committee, but I really think this is a very important part of what we should do, as well as get some momentum going for the history conference, because it's done every year. And email's great, doing things like this is great, but there's nothing that kind of compares with the in-person presence. So I'm thinking Tinner Hill Music Festival sounds like a fun venue, and we also could talk about the African American resources work we're doing, get leads on more resources by talking to people, promote the history conference. And here's the crux. When I did approach them about this, and I said, okay, what is the cost, if any, because we are a county commission. I also kind of paired it and said perhaps the Fairfax County Historical Society might be interested in this same thing, but I have not pitched that to the Historical Society yet. Anne also is a member there, so she knows I have done this. But there is a cost. It's $300 for a table at a section of this festival, and we'd have to bring our own tent, which I understand is somewhat maybe available. We could put up a banner, but I'm trying to ask, well, it wouldn't be just me coming because I would not want to work from 11 to 8, the festival hours. So we would need to do some people in volunteer shifts, which I'd be willing to organize. But I think they're thinking that we'll pay $300 and we'll have maybe one person or two persons there. Yeah, Barbara's shaking her head. Okay. Yeah, and the way it has worked in the past, from what I'm learning from other nonprofits, is it's that one person and you go there and you sit there. But we won't sell anything. We're not making money on this. Perhaps we could give out brochures or information. And we need to be looking for opportunities to do this. However, Celebrate Fairfax is not going to be what it had been, and it had been held at Tyson's, at the park at Tyson's. We didn't even know about it. I didn't know about it. It wasn't well advertised. And we need some outreach opportunities, Taste of Annandale, something like that. So I'm not sure this music festival is perhaps the best place, but I would like to get feedback on that. And yeah, on the cost, we're not a vendor making money. So yeah, I kind of thought it'd be $100 or something. $300 puts a little different light on it for me. So what do you all feel on that?
Well, this is Carol. What is the date?
It is Saturday, June 11th, an 11 to 8 music festival at Tinner Hill.
And where is it held?
Falls Church, Fairfax. Right, it's kind of literally in both jurisdictions, but it's in Falls Church. And
whereabouts in Falls Church?
Do you know where the Tinner Hill Historic Site is?
Yeah.
Okay. The park, which I didn't write the name
It's
down.
Cherry Hill Park, I believe.
Thank you, Cherry Hill Park. Thank you.
Okay. So June 11th, 8 to something at Cherry Hill Park is what you're saying.
11 to 8, correct.
11 to 8.
I just thought it was a good opportunity to do outreach. Go ahead.
Did you say only one person can man the booth?
Well, this is what I'm trying to clarify with them, that and the cost, because there is a cost if you attend the festival. And I think it's the cheapest is about $25, $30 a person if you pay by a certain date. So do they expect us to do that in addition to pay? I didn't get an answer on that yet.
And Sally has her hand up. Sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry, Hester, go ahead.
There are so many great festivals all over the county, many of them sponsored by the Park Authority that really high attendance. I know the Mason Neck Eagle Fest is very highly attended, and they're happy to get you and you don't have to pay anything.
Thank you, and that's the kind of feedback that I'm starting to look at.
So did I interrupt you? I'm sorry. Okay. Any other? Yeah, you guys can come to Centerville Day.
Barbara and
So, yeah, there's a history walk, and I don't have the date on the top of my head, but it's in Falls Church, and it's in May. I want to say the first Saturday in May, but I mean, it's another good place to put a table, and I don't know that there is a charge for participants in that.
Yeah, I'd like to find out more of that. And obviously, Anne and the Advocacy Committee should be weighing in on all this.
Yeah, I will get you the information on that.
I was just going to say that, Sue. Thank you.
Can anybody hear me? This
Yes.
is Anne. Oh, hi. this is, Tammy was leading the way with an event in Mount Vernon, so that was neat. And I think this is a fabulous kind of thing for us to be keeping an eye out for. Vienna has its Viva Vienna, which costs money a whole lot. It's a wild 3-day fair that Rotary puts on and over Memorial Day weekend, and I wouldn't want to pay their fee, but then again, Historic Vienna has a property there and would offer us whatever little chunk of time for a history table, which would, for free, just on the Historic Vienna property. And I bet you, just like Sally says with the Park Authority events, I bet you we can just keep our eyes out in each of our districts. We've each got to do that. Barbara keeps an eye out for Mason. I keep an eye out for the Vienna side. Barbara Nave keeps an eye out for the Reston side. And we really can be putting together these events for ourselves. It's great.
So I'd like to say that if we all feel strongly that putting a table and doing kind of outreach in that manner is helpful, we shouldn't worry too much about the budget. What I see about the budget is we hardly ever use anything and the money is accumulating. We need to find a good way of spending money.
That's interesting that you say that, and that's why, as Cheryl knows, I had asked to see the overall picture for the last few years, where the money was spent, how much on markers and stuff, and why I brought up that bit about the historic courthouse. There's a lot of money here, and I don't know how we spend it.
Yeah, that part is pretty opaque, but ever since I've been here and I've been listening to this, the reports about the bottom line is increasing because we are not expending.
On the other hand, we spent a lot of money last year supporting archaeology, if you remember.
Exactly. Yes.
We have some long-term things that we should be paying for. I mean, I don't want to go there today, but when we should have a budget meeting and brainstorm on this. But we want to do inventory nominations. We want to pay for lots of markers. We do have kind of a bottomless pit wish list of things to spend money on.
Awards.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to add in, because we have been talking about this a lot in advocacy. I really think it's wonderful to be looking at a variety of different venues. Sometimes it's worth actually asking if they have a nonprofit rate, because some of these events will have, for people who are making a profit, they'll have a different table cost. So that's definitely worth asking.
That is exactly what that is, though. That's the nonprofit rate, and that's why I'm
it's interesting.
That doesn't sound quite right.
Yeah, and and I'm not going to say I'm against paying money to go to some of these, because these events cost money to put on. I think your point about being there in person beforehand to promote the history conference is right on target. I think that personal connection, talking to a real person about it and hearing the enthusiasm for it, like you can't get it any other way. Right. And I think also something that we ought to be looking at is getting more diversity in who's attending our history conference. And so, maybe by cherry picking the different venues that we're at, we can, start to bring that idea forward. So, so I'm not against spending the money for it. I do think there are other opportunities out there as well, but I think we do need to choose carefully.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a music festival. It is organized by the Tinner Hill Heritage Foundation. So they have there's like a history corner where they have an exhibit, and they were offering to place us next to the foundation. But this festival overall is a music festival.
Well, and I don't have a problem with that, because, like, for instance, the one that we had talked about last time at the advocacy committee is in the Mount Vernon district. Again, there's a environmental expo. and it's at Fort Hunt Park. So there's that history element that sort of comes alongside the environmental expo part of things. So so I don't think it has to be exclusively a history event. I love when the history groups come together and all sort of in one pocket. I think that's a nice synergy that happens with that too.
So maybe the advocacy group can look towards the whole year and make a list of events that are happening, and we can sort of brainstorm, pick the best ones, and do a budget. But I'd like to be a little bit of a radical here, and maybe this is out of place for this discussion, but I would like to pass a motion that we have a budget briefing, because I find the budget very opaque.
I think that would be really helpful.
Anybody wants to second that?
Well, can the treasurer second?
I will, yeah, unless if Sue can't, I will second it, because I'm aware of that. We support, you know, we spent lots and lots of money supporting every year Virginia Room. We fund a staff for archaeology. We spent $20,000 last year on the much needed equipment for archaeology. We have the markers, the prices are going up and up. So we need to have a detailed list of what our ongoing costs are.
Agreed.
And then we need to know, and yes, we do. We need to deal with the budget. And it's sort of like the hole in the dark hole in the middle of all of us, because most of us that have been around are aware, but only institutional memory and new people like to be.
Could we have that for May?
Yeah, we have to. We have to, because Cheryl is going up in front of the board in June to present the annual report. So we have to have it in May.
The only part of the that fantastic annual report that I've gotten to see, the only blank part is the budget. So
exactly.
We need to deal with this situation. So I second with great energy.
Are we ready to call the question? Because I'd like to do a little more discussion here.
Go ahead, Lynn.
Oh, a whole bunch of things. I'm thinking of all kinds of things. First of all, Subi, thank you. This is something I've dreamed of for a long time. So this would be so helpful. The conference, we have no idea where that's going to go and how much that's going to continue to cost. And Tammy, for a long time, I thought you should be on the History Commission. Now I definitely do. The Conference Planning Committee. So there's that. But the other thing is, some of us have sat on this commission long enough to go back and remember there was a time when the county came to us and said, you guys have all this money, but you're not using it. Do you really need this annual distribution? So I think getting our hands around some priorities. I like the idea of public presence. The other thing we've been missing because of COVID is Celebrate Fairfax. And Elise and I and some other folks used to definitely participate at that. And it was we had the lobby of the government center, for heaven's sakes, with air conditioning. So we got to talk to lots and lots of people, and bless Elise's heart, she used to do some wonderful presentation panel boards for that Celebrate Fairfax. I do not know what the county's plans are for that this year. Does anybody have an idea? But if we are doing that, we definitely need to be there.
Okay, then you have to be careful. It wasn't the History Commission that had that table in the lobby. Elise was not there representing the History Commission.
You're right on. Yeah.
So who were we representing? We had
we weren't.
Perhaps it was a historical.
Elise represents the Fairfax County Historical Society.
No, it was the History Commission, because we talked about it during History Commission meetings. Naomi and I.
No. I'm sorry to interrupt. It came up when Channel 16 came to a meeting, and I was the chair then, and I was talking about something, and the Fairfax thing, and Elise interrupted and said no, that it was not History Commission. She always asked us to participate, but it was done, I believe, for the Fairfax County Historical Society.
That's correct.
And we were.
All right, then we need to make sure we're there. We need to make sure we're there and figure out a way for that for there to be a pleasant marriage with all of that.
I can find out what's happening and Celebrate Fairfax.
Was the History Community represented?
It's a history community. Fairfax County History Community is how she presented it. Yes, because we had, Park Authority people volunteered. It was everybody, but that's in the past. If the question, I don't even know at this point, but if the question about whether to go to Tinner Hill, I would suggest that out of that discussion came all of these ideas, and I think the advocacy committee should pursue and make a list and find out what else we want to do. But it seems like a return on $300 plus perhaps more may not be enough at this point when there are these other opportunities. That's my thought. I'm not sure where we are on that. So
I would also add, if we're going to start doing events around the county, one way we can spend our money is with more materials to distribute. Things to get.
Yes, and a nice presentation board too. But we're getting into advocacy here too. So let's let Ann.
That every history commission meeting we do. That's good, but let's move on to whatever we're going to vote on now.
Well, we should call the question on the budget.
Well,
on the budget.
Okay. Was that a formal motion, Sudi,
That
you made?
Was first and second.
That was a very formal and very serious motion.
Okay.
And
I commend you for it, Subi. I think it was a good idea.
Okay. Can we restate that motion?
The motion is that we have a detailed budget brief in the month of May.
Okay. And that was seconded by Barbara.
Yes,
Any further discussion of that question?
Great idea.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Any abstentions? Any opposition? Okay, motion passes. We'll see what we can do about that. And now, in terms of the Tinner Hill, it seems like that Sue still has some questions that are yet to be answered. It sounds like advocacy could be looking at this as an overall evaluation of a variety of events that are going on. So it seems like in terms of any action to take, that maybe that should all be tabled for May.
Mm-hmm.
We'll put it on the May agenda.
Agree, and I'll find out more. I do think that it's
assuming. Sorry, Anne, do you think advocacy could meet and present something by May, or would you prefer to wait a little bit longer on that?
Well, let's see how we do. We want to have a meeting in. It's not firm, but we'd love to have a meeting on the 14th or 21st. So yeah, and then we get more information from Sue about the Tinner Hill questions that she has. So let's shoot for May. If we can't do it, then we can at least move it along.
All right, sounds good. Yeah, I mean, may not be able to cover everything, but at least have, begin to formulate a strategy. All right.
Right. And if anyone else has ideas of things that are going on, get them to Anne before that April meeting, because that'll make that meeting even better.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, that's
Sounds
true.
good.
Everybody in your own magisterial district, really look at your calendar, read your newsletters, and talk to your staff person and try to identify some good possible opportunities for us.
Okay, sounds good. All right. There is an item that is not on the agenda because it just came up. And it is a naming request from the Board of Supervisors, specifically from Supervisor Harity, with regard to a helicopter pad. Janae, could you help me out here and fill everybody in on what the request is or what the board matter was?
Sure. I actually just got it as well today.
Yeah.
Yesterday afternoon. And what it is there had been a motion put in by Supervisor Pat Harity that was to have a helicopter pad
named after David Rohr, who was the chief of police, and he has worked for the county since 1980. Had a long history. I have this 2-page document that I could read to you, but just suffice to say, I think he's done good work. He's done good work. And so they want to name this after him, but there's a little bit of a time crunch in that they want to put the signage up before they have their, when they have the opening ceremony for this helicopter pad. So that's why they asked if it's any way possible that we could vote on it tonight, that we would approve.
So and I just want to explain, so the board voted some time ago that we would be involved in naming county facilities, not necessarily all the time, but as the sort of default. If somebody else wasn't named, we would be the named. And I don't honestly know what it is we're actually supposed to do as such with regard to this.
Where is it? Where is the helicopter pad? Where is the helicopter pad?
Question. Yeah, where is it?
Where is it?
I don't know if it says.
It doesn't say, does it? No idea. It's in Fairfax County.
No.
Springfield somewhere.
When is the opening ceremony?
Not necessarily.
They're going to try to do it in May. So that's why they want to be able to name it so they can put the sign up.
Okay, but making us responsible for input on naming when they gave it to you yesterday and want to vote today.
Yes.
It's nothing but a rubber stamp. They don't need us. They've already made their decision.
Done it. Let them go ahead.
So they did. The board matter actually did go forward on March 8th. And so, although, yeah, and they are not, the clerk's office should be informing us that this board matter has, and this board matter specifically mentioned us, we're not getting this information, and staff didn't have the information either. Denise didn't know anything about it until Janae, said, why wasn't this on the agenda? Did I miss this?
Yeah, because I just got this email yesterday and they just kind of wanted to know the status. And I said, this is the first I'm hearing of it. So that's when we had this conversation.
Janae, let me give you just a mini back story here. This is kind of the way things happen in the Springfield district. Okay. That's awesome.
Great.
So I don't know if if there's a motion or what stage we're in, but I have a huge issue with this. And my issue is that, we have the Confederate Names Task Force. We have all these naming task force that we are now retrospectively looking at names and trying to figure out the rationale and some of the evidence and the stuff for those things that were named in the past. So now that we are in the present, what criteria are we using? Do we have a checklist? Do we know that this gentleman and his forefathers had nothing to do with the Confederacy? Are we doing due diligence? I mean, this to me is crazy that they want it in May. Anyway.
I think, Janae, didn't they say, was June an option? Wasn't it May, June?
Yeah, yes, they did. They did. So should we send out everything? We can send this out to them and we'll.
I mean, I think that we need to reply and say that, we only found out about this today, or on the date, yesterday. Yeah. And that, it is, we can give you an answer at our May meeting, but, I don't.
What's this?
I'm frustrated as well.
Cheryl, I have my hand up.
Sorry, go ahead, Esther. Thank you.
So, listening to all this, and I understand where Subi is coming from, I feel somewhat the same. These things come to us and they have to be done lickety split. Okay, now they're honoring this gentleman, why are they not calling it his name? What's the big deal? We got to choose something that represents him?
No, we just say, yeah, that sounds great to us. Name it Roar
We have to
helicopter
endorse
pad.
it. Yeah, we have to endorse it, but based on what?
Yeah,
So there is a sorry, there is a as Janae says, there's a 2-page statement that goes along with the nomination. When the supervisor makes this motion, he justifies the selection of the name. And so this is David Wura was the chief of police and served Fairfax County for many years. He's currently employed and is serving Fairfax County, I believe, in a different position with. Well, I take that back. I only did a quick Google search, so
he
retired as
the
police
Deputy
chief.
County Executive of Public Safety until his recent retirement in January 2022.
Okay, thank you.
He did that
Thank
for
you,
10
Janae.
years.
Yeah,
Anyway.
so I looked at something that was a little outdated. All right, so yeah, so he's now retired, but he was for many years in charge of county safety and the police department in particular, and you know, so there is a long record of service there.
Yeah.
Lynn, you do have your hand up.
You're muted. I've got it. Okay. I think Subi's onto something important here, because y'all remember the scramble we tried to do with the naming of the Clifton Town Hall and all of that. Do you know that Town Hall has still yet to be dedicated? And yeah, just so you know. And and the man for whom it's named is incredibly ill right now, which in the grand scheme of things is not our problem as a history commission. Why? Because it's the town of Clifton's opportunity to come to the Board of Supervisors and say, this is what we plan to do. Now, as a courtesy in letting us know, it makes sense. But after a lot of back and forth, and with the mayor and I, it took us a while to just kind of decipher that, you know what, it can be whatever it can be. So I think getting some criteria in place and being clear that Herndon and Vienna and Clifton sometimes sort of do their own thing is fine. Okay, that's all I need to say.
But I think Subi's right. We need criteria to make these judgments.
Okay, so we did, you know, what we had done, you know, when we first were made aware that this was a thing that was assigned to us, was that we had decided that the inventory committee would be tasked with reviewing this, because it seemed like it was sort of similar to reviewing an inventory site. And so what we could do is have the inventory committee meet. They can review, do a little bit of research, review the comments, the 2 pages that accompanies this, and then present a recommendation to the commission as a whole in May. If you're comfortable with that, Janae, if the commission is comfortable with that, telling you know, saying we can do this in May, you know, make this final, you know, decision in May, or if somebody has some other way, if you want to do it tonight and just rubber stamp it, we can do that too.
I don't think everybody wants to do that. So I like your idea. Have it go into the committee and then have that committee give us a presentation. I think, you know, for whatever reason, the
recommendation,
the material was not brought over to us, and so there you go.
Yeah. I mean, we can't just be informed the day before our meetings. Go ahead. Sorry.
I know.
Just because we are still very, very bruised and raw from the Black Lives Matter events very recently, anybody from the police department, I'd like to see his data. I'd like to see his service data in terms of race, police brutality. I'm sorry, otherwise this means nothing to me. Someone saying he's a good guy means nothing to me. I need the data.
Okay, that makes sense. Barbara.
It does. Yeah.
I wanted to add that whatever it is you respond, it's really important that you point out that when we received it, and that there has to be a systemic process, and that there is not. And just designating us and at the last minute, and the example was with Lynn's situation in Clifton, but in this definitely, and Subi's right. This is, if we're to cover for somebody, this isn't how you go about it. So I'm totally in support of saying we can't do it at this meeting, and these are the reasons.
And I see Mary now. Now I see Mary's hand going up. There you go.
Well, my question is why? Why do they think they need our rubber stamp? It's just to me, it's well, anyway, I sure would like to know where the helipad is. Is it on top of Fairfax Hospital? Is it, on top of a supervisor's building, or,
and how much research are we expected to do to vet this person?
Right.
Well, they've already done that.
Theoretically.
I just want you to look at it. They obviously don't want you to check it. We're supposed to check things out. I mean, we could look stupid
They want to make
for a
sure
whole
that
lot
they
of
don't
reasons.
That's right, Bob.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, Bob.
Okay, we beat this one to death. Okay.
I think we have. Yes.
So let me say one thing though, Janae, whatever document you have, if you could make that available to the rest of us, it would be hugely helpful.
Absolutely. Yes.
Carol,
it literally arrived yesterday. So
I know, got it. I got it, but just for the future. Yep.
Okay. All right.
I
So
keep
Cheryl,
coming
do
home
you
and
want
falling
me to
asleep.
send that out? Cheryl,
Yes, you can go ahead, Janae. Sure.
Okay.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Okay, great.
More likely that it'll
Blind
get done. 'Cause I
copy?
might fall asleep. Coffee?
Blind copies?
Blind copies. Yes, please, Janae.
Yes.
All right. Let us move on and do our reports. History conference. Lynn.
Okay, and I am not muted. A couple of things. First of all, I want to thank many of you for sharing your condolences with me on the loss of my brother last month. It was somewhat of a surprise, and it was kind of a challenging situation. So thank you for those of you that circled back with me in that regard. On a much happier note, I want to sing the praises of Sue Kovach Schumann. I got to hear her at the Fairfax Museum and Visitor Center a few weeks ago. So did Jordan. Talk about Mantua, and she did a fantastic job. So hats off to you, Sue. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Glad you are on the commission. The conference committee met on the 23rd of March, and I'm checking to see who all got a copy of the email I sent out on Sunday the 27th around 10 o'clock at night. If you're on that committee and you didn't get a copy, please let me know. I've had 3 days of insanity with my Outlook system, which froze for 3 days, had to be unfrozen only by virtue of undoing my Microsoft and re-implementing everything else, which kicked out a lot of things, including Teams, which I discovered this evening. So at our meeting on the 23rd, we had Esther, Phyllis, Jordan, Mike, Cheryl, Liz, Naomi, and myself. And we continued taking a look at the content for the conference on November 5th at the Sherwood Community Center. Hopefully that will continue to stay in place. We are looking at a title, Early Immigrant Groups of Fairfax County, Sowing the Seeds of Today's Fairfax County. And one of the things that we have discovered is that because the county dates back incredibly far, this last year, year one, we talked about our Native American and our African American heritage. Even in the 1600s and the 1700s, we did have a European presence in our area. And our area, not too far from Fairfax County, would be the Germana colony. So the reality of Fairfax County for a long time geographically is what it was a fairly sparsely populated county. There were not a lot of collective towns or cities as we know them today, or suburban areas. And so this is what we have come up with, that this heritage of this land includes a significant number of German immigrants, many European indentured servants, the Scots-Irish, the English, and eventually a Jewish presence. So this is what the committee is now up to. And it looks like this conference this year may be a little bit more amorphous, just because it's a topic that doesn't really get focused until a little bit later on into the 20th century. So committee member Mike Irwin is going to be studying our early German population. Esther's taking a look at some of the early customs and foods of our area, much of which would have been reflected in church gatherings and social events. Phyllis is going to be contacting the Smithsonian to see who might be able to assist with our research. Cheryl has a George Mason University friend, Sherry Ann Huerta, to see what info she might have, who also gave a fantastic presentation to the Centerville Historic Society a few weeks ago, which I was honored to be able to listen to, about the slaves that had run away in Fairfax County and what their stories were. And it was very powerful and obviously very emotionally moving. I liked how she ended her presentation. So it would be a possible resource. Jordan will be checking with his Jewish colleagues and community to find out what additional information we might have as a speaker, and supportive in that reality. Obviously, Sue, we have your lovely Mantua experience and your stories there. Liz has a friend from Youngstown State who's done research on the immigration of the Midwest area of the United States, who may also have information to be able to help us. She also has a friend named Eric Larson, who's the chief archaeologist from Germana. I just mentioned Germana. And a friend named Martha, who's done a lot of research on the Italian immigrant population in the United States. I'm going to be in touch with Rose Powhatan to see who some of her ancestors might have interacted with, and what those immigrant groups might have been. Also, some about the arrival of the Scots-Irish, and even some about the Russians as they began to come to our land during the time of the Russian Revolution. And David, I need to circle back with you to, I don't know if you're still on our call or not, to circle back with you to see who in the city of Fairfax might be able to help us with some immigrant groups in the city. So we are still kind of in research mode, but I'm giving you kind of a heads up that the seeds of our reality are spread pretty wide. Mary's got a question. Yeah, Mary.
No, I'm just wondering, about 15 years ago, Sharon had a town hall meeting with somebody from the county doing census information in the county by groups, how many Spanish, how many Asian, etc. And I'm just putting that out, that there may be someone in the county who does that data today that could go back to the 1800s for you and give you the information.
Oh, yes. There's a demographic report that that Gibson fellow who worked at the census did. It's a long report.
Yes, I've taken a look at that, and it's at the end of the day, it's still somewhat vague. But yes, he did do a tremendous amount of research on that, and our committee considered that very early on. And thank you for mentioning that again. So that's just kind of our heads up for right now. We are going to have a meeting again April 27th. Hopefully by then we'll have all done a little bit more homework and been able to tap into some people who might be able to bridge that gap and be meaningful presenters for this year's history conference. There is, I know, on this commission, a strong interest in taking a look at the diversity of our population, especially as we know it today. A lot of that diversity did not really happen until pretty well into the 20th century. So since our conference doesn't quite cover that area, we won't be getting into that. In fact, the book A Nation of Nations by Tom Gelton. This book looks like it's going to be one of our Bibles, if you will, for the third conference in this series. So that's a little bit about the conference. Okay, conference committee people. Anything else I have left out here? Yes, Sue.
You didn't leave it out, but I just wanted to add that this afternoon I learned that there is a writer doing a Jewish history of Northern Virginia. And one of the rabbis told me that, so we didn't know. So I connected with her, and she's all excited that we're even going to, if not this year, at some point, look at Jewish immigration. So I will get in touch with her and Jordan and
perfect,
get that moving. Thanks.
Yeah, that'd be good. Good to have her as a resource then too. Yeah, Tammy.
So, and this is just a question. I don't know if you had thought of this, but we're talking about immigrants coming from different countries. But a lot of what we had in the Mount Vernon area in the middle part of the 19th century was immigration from New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, the Quakers who came in.
Yes,
and do you have like a way of dealing with that story?
You know, I actually think that's a very worthy story because it begins to connect the dots and it begins to put out there the fact that at one time we had an intentionality in this county to show that slavery was not necessary. And it was the people from these Quaker folks that came to show us that's a lot of the land that was Mount Vernon is where these Quaker folks landed. So Tammy, if you've got any thoughts from your contacts in that area in that regard, I think that would be a fantastic inclusion into this conference.
Yeah. Well, Susan Hellman, I know, spoke a few years ago, but
yes, she has.
That just it bears retelling. Just because they had such an impact in farming, in the Civil War, in politics. I mean, just there were a lot of different effects that came from that. So
well, and so did the whole suffragist movement. It was born out of the suffragist backgrounds, or the Quaker background rather. And that's where many of their sayings came from. So anyway, Janae, you've got a question, and then I see Barbara.
No, just a quick comment. Having been working with the redistricting committee on whether to remove Sully or not, Sully was a beautiful farm that was created by the Quakers before the Civil War. And as a matter of fact, it was considered one of the best farms on the Eastern Seaboard. It received awards. And basically, yes, they would hire the enslaved, but they would pay the master, but they would also pay those enslaved, and then they could earn their freedom. Well, you can bet they worked really hard, and then they would stay, of course, after they were free, and he would give them the whole amount. So it's a good example of how a farm was able to be very
transition. Yeah, a farm was able to transition.
And that was from the 1830s. It's a fascinating story.
Sure. Yeah. Barbara?
Two things. One was it's not just the Quakers. There were people from upstate New York and up north that came down and bought land down here because it was a good purchase. So that was some before, like the Hates at Sully, and some after the Civil War. So you have an internal migration. The other thing is, personally, I'm very, very familiar with the history of Germana, and the story of they were Germans put out there to protect the English and be between the English and the Indians. So
Indians, right?
And so you and I are somehow cousins. I don't know how, but anyway. So I'm and I know.
I take that as a great compliment, Barbara.
One of my lines came. He was with the 1714 group, and so. But
mine too. Same ship, Barbara.
I know, but the point is that Germana is working hard to get the story of Germana out, and the fact that it's not just this one little place down there. And so they might be very interested, not only Eric, but somebody, either their director or whatever might be interested in participating in the conference, because it simply lets more people know about the role of Germana. So anyway, just waving the flag a little bit.
I think that's great. If you want to forward some of that information on, I think that would be absolutely fantastic. The fact that there were so many Irish in Fairfax County, and I know I've mentioned this before, but they came in via Baltimore, and many of them got down to this area by walking, and many of them came to this area completely illiterate. So it's a real interesting kind of influx of humans that somehow kind of sort of figured out how to all work together. And I think it's an honor for us to be able to know who they are and be able to tell their stories. So yeah, Barbara, if you could pass on a contact there, that would be wonderful.
To remark that the Northern Virginia chapter of the Archaeological Society of Virginia is doing a tour of the Germanicide a week from Saturday.
Super.
So I'm going to be down there. Yeah.
Oh, golly.
That's the 16th. Right?
Okay. Can you pass on information about that, Sally?
Is Eric taking everybody around, I presume?
I think so. There's going to be a talk. Yeah.
Yeah, Sally, once you forward that, that'd be good for the committee to be aware of. Wonderful. All right. So I'm glad for this conversation. I'm sorry it was a bit lengthy, but anything else, committee folks? Yeah. Anne?
I had a question. Thanks. So this is still, we are Fairfax County. So unless I guess we might figure we've already beat the English to death in terms of coverage, but they as early settlers are also of some interest. Or is it just immigration, and when does immigration start versus settlement? So anyway, just putting in a plug for the very earliest, because we hit the Native Americans, and we they were kind of next with the people from Africa.
Yeah. Well, and that may be something that gets explored a little bit more when I get to talk to Rose, because her heritage would have had that kind of interaction. So that's a good point.
There's just so much to tell. Great job, you guys.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, we've been working hard on this, and this year content has just been so somewhat ambiguous for us to take a good close look at. Okay, Cheryl, are we ready for me to go on to awards?
Yes.
Okay. I've got another award submission. There's a man named Mike Salmon, who I think, Mary Lipsy, you are familiar with him because I think he did one of the videos that you were in, and he has submitted that for a Jack Hiller Award. That's his second submission for a Jack Hiller Award to the awards committee. And he is also a reporter for the Connection newspaper. And just kind of as a mini sidebar here, he has been doing a lot of research on Fairfax County's time capsules. Let me put this out here for you all, because I'm sure you know of time capsules in your areas. And so I helped him with that article this last few weeks. And let me tell you, the future of time capsules in this county is dire at best. A lot of them get forgotten. A lot of them get leaky. A lot of them get destroyed. So let me just plant a seed with you all. We may be coming back to that particular topic. But I think in terms of awards, let's see. Steve Sherman, you're here. Anything else I've forgotten?
No, that's it for me. Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect. All right. I think
When
that's
are
it.
the next meetings?
Our next
For
meeting
the
is April
history
27th.
conference?
April 27th. That was in the memo of March 27th.
Huh.
It's going to.
Okay.
All right. Phyllis, you want to?
I'm sorry. That's the conference date, not the awards date. I apologize. We don't have an awards committee date.
Meeting, right. We don't have that. Okay, great.
Right. Thank you for clarifying that.
Okay. So continuing on to African American History Initiative or Inventory, Phyllis.
Okay. Our meeting was March 8th, and it was a pretty short meeting with things that we discussed. We discussed a deadline of April the 8th, which is this coming Friday. All of the templates, the the additional templates that were going to be added to the original batch that we sent over to the capstone students. April 8th, those that were being done by the commissioners will be sent to Mary and I, and then we will be reviewing them and forwarding them to the capstone team on the 15th of April. The capstone team is very excited about building the database, and of course they're going to be graduating at the end of this semester, but they are actually adding some new features that we hadn't thought about, that Mary and I hadn't thought about before. And so I think you'll be excited when the actual database is debuted in June. I also want to thank Mary, Denise, Liz Kroll, Chris Babishak, Barbara Naif, all of these ladies and gentlemen were spending a lot of time on weekends, night meetings, early morning meetings, and somehow, I don't know how Mary does it, but I think Mary has a 38-hour day when the rest of us are trying to do the 24. So I just wanted to say thanks to everybody, all the commissioners that have participated, and also point out those separate ones. So our next meeting will be April the 12th, and Mary and I will be meeting with the capstone students on April 27th. Thank you.
Bravo.
Excellent. Thank you. Yeah. Indeed.
Great, great.
All right. Gretchen's not here, and there may be reports. I haven't been able to check the share file, but we'll go along, check that pot, continue
Cheryl?
on. Sarah, yes, go ahead.
Could I just add one thing for the AHI?
Sure, go ahead.
Very, very quickly. I was inspired by the Colored Citizens Association booklet that Chris shared with us about the actions taken by this association. So there's going to be a supplement. We're going to have our general resources and the research topics, but there will be African Americans working for change. And it's not templates. It is actually just a record of what was presented in the booklet as the goals and aims of the association, and then headlines from news articles of their actions, then also calling for improvement in schools, various school board minutes, and finally the fraternal organizations. So this is not going to be a template like we've done with the others, but it's just going to be an extra little section because it was so valuable, that information. We wanted to get it out so people could read. And that was their 13th anniversary in 1941. I know they lasted through 1945, but I don't know how much longer than that. But they were a tremendous association in the work they did. And thank you, Phyllis, for your kind words.
Cheryl,
Yes.
this is Subi. Could we do advocacy next, please?
Yes, that's next.
Barbara, do you want to start? Anne has delegated it to Barbara and me to fill in because she's driving.
Mm-hmm.
You're muted.
Okay, Advocacy Committee met on March 3rd. Present were Anne, Carol, Subi, Tammy, Cheryl, and myself. And some of what we discussed was Tammy's really successful Mount Vernon event and points that she found useful. And then, of course, as we discussed tonight, ways that we can all find additional events in our community to go to. One of the things Tammy prepared was a checklist, which I think is something that we should share with all the commissioners for what to be prepared to take. But she realized that there was a greater need for handouts again, because we haven't been doing in person. And so all of us should have a supply of handouts for events, as well as making sure that our supervisors' offices have them as people are starting to go back into the offices. Other issue for discussion was how to do some press releases, and we talked about how the awards could be one of those issues where we could announce our awards as well as announce, you know, who the recipients were, and use these as press releases to make ourselves known further throughout the community. We also talked about issues that we wanted to discuss at future meetings, which was pursuing historic preservation tools and ways to share our activities and accomplishments with our stakeholders. And of course, the big issue of our committee meeting this last time was, I will turn it over to Subi, the annual report and how she was doing with it.
So actually, the annual report is a dual do-some. It's Tammy and me, partners in crime. But something that we absolutely could not do without the input of all the committee chairs and all of you who cooperated so well on the bios and the photographs. I think you'll be pleased when you see the report. We have a solid draft that we hope to send it out to you all, to the whole commission in just a few days. The only gap we have right now is the budget. So yeah, but it's, and to accompany the report, which is I think around 19 pages, 20 pages, I don't know exactly how many. We have a PowerPoint presentation already to go with it. And again, the only missing piece also in the slides is the budget part. And I think the budget discussion in May would be very, very helpful. But thank you all very much. I just remember, as I was doing my looking back a few years into the annual report, I realized that 2019 was our 50th anniversary for the History Commission.
Yes.
And I was wondering if we did anything special that year to celebrate the commission, or did we miss it? I mean, we still haven't released the 2019 report. Do we still have a chance to do that?
Yeah, we did we celebrated the inventory, remember?
Yes.
That's
okay.
Yeah, before your time.
Okay. All right. So and if Anne has it, yeah.
We will get the info. This is Barbara. We'll get the information, but we sent out a letter. We did all kinds of things, focusing around the historic site inventory. So the details we'll have to get to you. But yes, that was, I think, our. And then at the conference, we had a big 50th cake, didn't we, Lynn?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, yes, we did do things in recognizing them. Mm-hmm.
Okay, maybe we need to do something on the website to sort of acknowledge the 50th anniversary. Maybe you know, pull all this information together and do a little widget.
Good idea.
Tammy, do you have anything to add?
Subi, wait a minute. In terms of doing something on the website, I think that's a great idea. And yes, we celebrated the conference, but Subi also know there was a lot of conversation around doing a separate event. We were even going to do it over at Green Spring, and the commission decided not to spend the money to have a reception, invite people in, as had been done at the 25th anniversary. So there were a lot of things were discussed, and other things did happen that year to honor who we are and what we've been. So there you have it.
Okay, maybe the advocacy committee can pull together the information on what we did and have it on the website. So that'll be nice.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good idea. I don't have anything to add, just that I am really excited to look at this annual report, because sometimes we don't look back and think about everything we accomplished in the last year. We do a lot of good work.
Yes.
I think it's a great opportunity to really appreciate what gets done, and I think it sounds like we're being asked to do more and more every year. So, so I'm really excited to just see it come together. So thank you, everybody.
All right.
I have one more thing.
I was gonna say, Barbara, I think.
I planned not to talk at all tonight, and here I am again, but Subi did the courtesy of sharing the draft with me, because I'd had some big questions when they started, and I'm just offering kudos. It's beautifully done. It's very professional. I went through the PowerPoint is what I talked about. So anyway, I think you all will be very pleased. So thank you, Subi. And Tammy and Ann, everybody involved. It really is good. So,
Carol Herrick.
When we're finished with this, could we go back to the 250th?
The 250th or the 50th?
The revolutionary that we passed on. When we're done with this, can we go back to what we passed on, Gretchen's report?
Oh, do you have a report for Gretchen to make?
Well, Gretchen didn't ask me to give a report, but since I'm representing the History Commission, I can give you an update of what they talked about, which was very little, or we can pass. Makes no difference.
Let's hear.
Yeah, I mean, all they did basically was talk about where this commission is going. They're focusing on 1776 basically, and not the war. And that 7076 will spill over to 2026, and they'll focus on that. And so those are the two things that they will focus on, so that it's all sort of inclusive. And they don't want to call it a celebration. It's very definitely a commemoration. And that's it in a nutshell, you know. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Carol. All right, Mary. Markers and cemeteries.
Okay, well, I'll start with the marker committee. As a committee, we discussed independently, giving their opinions on whether we should add something concerning oral tradition to the marker text guidelines. The reception was mixed, and we had, everybody had ideas about it. What I would like to suggest is that if history commissioners want to send me their opinions about it, I know that we have been in the past, we have markers that say, according to family history, according to tradition, according to church history. So we have been accepting oral traditions for, documentation in markers. So I have no problem in continuing with that. What I ask of history commissioners that if you have any strong feelings, to please just let me know, and we, might bring it back up before the marker committee again. Are there any questions about that? Okay. For the marker project, the deadline was officially extended to April 30th. So we're reminding people, if you have any young people in the county who'd like to suggest a topic for a marker for Blacks or African Americans, it's all online. They submit online, etc. So the deadline is April 30th. They're in the final days of cementing the voting committee, and they will be receiving orientation and training in the future. With Cemetery Committee, I hope if you want to see the dedication of Francis Summers, that you'll join us on that April 30th at 11 a.m. at the cemetery. Francis Summers was a patriot, and his marker has been out of the cemetery probably about 20 years now. And so the two DAR chapters have worked together to get the base fixed. They're going to reaffix some bronze plaques and have a nice ceremony on April 30th at 11 a.m. Beyond that, I have nothing more to report.
Okay. I just want to add, Mary, that the marker has had some submissions. So
yes,
about
yes,
24.
we're on the upswing. Yes.
Yeah. So
yes.
We're happy. Thank you. Ethnic and oral history, Esther.
Thank you. I'll be brief. We did have a meeting March 22nd. There were a handful of us there. So we made no major decisions. We discussed very briskly how to proceed and how the committee should function. So we will be working on assignments to bring back in April on how to plan the packet that could be used for training citizens how to do oral history events or interviews. Our next meeting is in May. We're skipping April, and that meeting would be on May 24th, 7 p.m. So that's it.
All right. Thank you.
Esther, this is kind of an offshoot of what we do with ethnic and oral history. I'm running at least a 4, possibly 5-part series in Clifton Living Magazine on each of the living mayors of Clifton. So I think it kind of ties in with some of the things we've been talking about.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay.
We'll talk.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Esther. Resident Curator Program. Bob, do you want to add anything to Stephanie's report?
Yeah, I do actually. I mean, she gave the report and all the information's there. So, as you know, I participate on the evaluation team, and truly the current one we're reviewing is probably the most complete and accurate response we've ever gotten. And it's a fantastic site, which I have toured, and always wondered what it was like all my life. And this is the first time I was ever there. So it's kind of cool. I want to recognize those that have been involved in the Curator program for all their contributions and the high degree of professionalism that they exude. It's been long since on my mind that the Resident Curator program should have been on a much larger scale than just Fairfax County, but there was no way for us to get that done, not at the state level, which is probably where it should have been, because you have other jurisdictions that have historic properties, and they should be able to tap into a program like this. It's only the larger counties like ours that can manage to run our own. We had enough inventory to put into it that made it worthwhile. Other smaller jurisdictions may not. I believe, and this may be an advocacy thing, that as a commission, we should let other jurisdictions know about our success, educate them on the program, and encourage them to start their own. I would love it if they could tag on to ours, but I don't know. We'd have to do a little research to find out if that was even possible. This is not something I've brought up to anyone other than you at this time, but it has been on my mind for quite a while. And when I talk about reaching out to other jurisdictions, I'm talking about speaking to their Board of Supervisors, Arlington County, Loudoun County, and some of the smaller jurisdictions, our towns, our cities, that fall within our Northern Virginia purview. Even Prince William County, they may have some product out there that they need to be protecting. I realize that this is not necessarily historic preservation activity as much as it is a rehabilitation program, but it does focus on the history of the buildings that we've got in the programs. It's been on my mind to bring that up for a while. I'm just laying out a seed. I'm planting the seed in your mind to think about this, and over time, maybe there's something we could do, or a way we could figure out how to structure something that we could reach out to other jurisdictions. At least, if anything, toot our own horn. So, but encourage them to do the same. So, anyway, just my thoughts. Thank you.
Sounds like a good idea.
Well, wasn't this part of what, when we met with the ARB in that joint meeting several years ago, sort of the thrust of what you're saying? I mean, getting in touch with all of these other Virginia communities and finding out what they were doing and sharing what we were doing.
I believe that's true, but I don't know that any action's been.
No, I don't think it happened.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, let me know if you got any thoughts. I'm always around. Okay. Thank you.
Muted, Cheryl, muted.
I actually hit the button. So I was just saying that's an interesting idea, Bob, and we probably should have, in general, some sort of communication with our colleagues in other history commissions, in the local counties. Another thing to put on the to-do list. Anne's not here, so I think David.
Cheryl, I have
sure.
just one more comment. It's been a year or two since it's happened, but I believe at some point somewhere along the line, it was pre-COVID definitely, that Loudoun County had inquired about our history commission.
Right.
And I think they have a sister organization, but it isn't structured the same. And
Right.
Maybe it's time for us to reach out, and maybe that's the better place to start with Loudoun County. I don't know. And let them know what we are and how we work. See, maybe Loudoun County needs their own history commission, and then they could be the advocates for pushing this idea forward. So advocacy should probably look more boldly than it is to the general public, but maybe we should. I guess if I need to join the advocacy commission, committee, I'll do so. But
there you go.
Talk myself into. Anyway,
well, it needs everybody's energy, Bob. I actually think that's a good point. The person from Loudoun County that reached out to me, and I'm sure somewhere in my hopefully unfrozen emails, I could figure out who that was and try to circle back. It was a connection through Rich Gillespie and Tracy Gillespie, if any of you know who they are. Just a lovely couple of historians out of the Loudoun County area. But I really like that idea of getting our name out as, one of the premier history commissions in the state, maybe.
Hey, we were first. Fairfax County is like that. You can see guys with Fairfax County across their back going out to rescue somebody in a foreign country. So
it's true.
That doesn't happen all the time, but it does happen, and we're on the news, for good things.
Yeah.
Denise has her hand up, so I want to recognize Denise.
Thank you. I did just want to let everybody know that Loudoun County has started their own resident curator program.
Oh,
nice.
Denise, do you know if they have a commission now in place that's similar to ours? Because this person that reached out said that what they had was somewhat wobbly. It mirrors what I heard. It mirrors what Bob just said.
Yeah, I don't know about the current state of the commission, but Elise and I went and talked to that body, and the preservation program manager was there. We talked about the inventory of historic sites. We talked about the resident curator program, and this was pre-COVID, so it was a while ago. But I do know that they have started their own resident curator program.
Interesting.
And that was, they did some outreach, and we went out there and talked to them.
Very
Great.
cool.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
When did When did you do that, Denise? What year?
Well, it was pre-COVID.
Okay, you said
Yeah,
that. I'm
so
sorry.
yeah, I don't it, I don't know, you know, but before 2020.
The before time. It's before the before time.
Right, the
Before
before times, right.
Okay. All right, David. Because at least it's not here.
Before I begin, I don't want to put too much emphasis on the biblical reference of a rib, but Loudoun County did come out of Fairfax County.
Brilliant point.
Nicely done.
If you are in the city of Fairfax, you will have noticed as of Monday morning, Old Town Hall is wrapped in chain link fence, and at least the parking lots. The contractor has begun a $600,000 restoration of the west portico of the building. I've already announced that the city also is being awarded it's called a community development project funding, which is really a euphemism for an earmark that's come back. So we received $2.1 million to address the other issues in the building for a total of $2.7 million. And so this will now allow us to address the issues of a new HVAC system, new electrical, new restrooms, ADA accessibility. More to come on that, but this is a significant investment in our historic downtown district and in that particular building. More of interest directly to the commission is that over the next 60 days, the city of Fairfax will be voting on two things. One is the policies and procedures as to how street names, new streets are named, and how existing streets can be renamed. So we'll be adopting a new draft policy that probably on April 12th, and then following that, we will be voting on individual streets to be renamed with the goal of changing or at least making decisions on all of these street names that are on the list before the end of July. Now, there is two caveats, as I mentioned to you before. Old Lee Highway, which is all within the city, and that more than likely will be changed. And then Lee Highway in the city, we're still going to coordinate that with both Dahlia Palchek in the Providence district and James Walkinshaw in the Braddock district. So those are the big issues right now. I do have I've made a commitment this evening to follow up on, at least from the city's perspective, relative to the courthouse, and I will certainly keep everyone on the commission and all of the people that spoke involved in and let them informed as to what I find out and where we may go with that. And that is pretty much what we have to report this time. We are green lights on holding the history conference at the Sherwood Center, if in fact that is the final outcome, the decision by the committee and the commission. It is available for the conference gratis, and I don't think I have anything else to report right now.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. That's very, very generous, David. Really appreciate the support for the history conference, and always interested to hear what's going on in Fairfax City. I don't really have anything to add as website coordinator other than the fact that I am website coordinator, at least for the interim, although I might hand it over to Carol. But
Mary's hand is up, Cheryl.
I see Mary's hand, yes.
Okay.
She's muted. Mute.
Sorry. We had talked about the Colored Citizens Association booklet, and we have asked Chris Barbershock about getting either the link or the actual scanned copy onto the website. It is such a valuable document that it could be, put into the African American history menu there. So I don't know if that takes a motion or just a suggestion, but I'll forward you his email that says that we have permission to do that.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. If we're putting it onto the AAHI webpage, I don't think there's any need for any kind of motion
Okay.
for that. As long as Phyllis is okay with it. All right. And yeah, I think I already have a scanned copy of that I can ask Thomas to put
Okay.
up. So then announcements. Anyone have any announcements to make?
This is going to happen in May. It's maybe a bit premature, but Mrs. Robert Walker is going to be visiting the National Association of Retired Federal Employees on the 11th of May.
Cool.
And I have just one thing. It's also May 22nd. The Fairfax County Historical Society, yay, coming back. We'll have a walking tour of Herndon.
Oh, very cool.
Outdoors and a lot of fun. And David, you didn't say anything about the Fairfax Museum expansion.
I know, I forgot. So that's why I was raising my hand. The Fairfax Museum, if you're standing looking at it, it's an 1873 building. To the right is 2.7 acres of commercially zoned land. It's all wooded. We have repeatedly received proposals to develop that land, both for commercial, office building, townhouses. And now that it's all over, I will say this to my colleagues on the commission, but I do not want you to, but I work pretty hard to kill all of those proposals. And then the city of Fairfax, this was also stuff that you do below the radar screen, but the city of Fairfax is now the legal owner of that land. We bought it from the developer for $875,000, which was a steal. Absolutely. And that land will be preserved as open space, wooded land next to the museum in perpetuity for at least a couple hundred years. So that's another major investment in our history. So there you go. So, thanks. And that happened 3 days ago.
Congratulations. That's
great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And then
congratulations.
Let's not forget River Farm, Tammy. The Northern Virginia Conservation Trust is having their fundraiser at River Farm this year. You probably, yeah.
That is correct. That is the 8th and 9th. And I will say this is that parking is $20, but if you join, it is free. And so it is well worth joining. Their marketing people really have been hard at work on that model.
Wait,
How much is it to join? How much is it to join, Tammy?
I think it's $40, something like that. So it's, yeah, so it's 8th and 9th, and it's their what is it called? Spring garden event. And it's a plant sale. They have master gardeners there.
Nice.
All of that is going on this weekend.
Oh, we're talking about something different because the invitation I got is $150 a head. Northern Virginia Conservation Trust is having a gala evening there. So it's a different event. Yes, yours is cheaper.
Yeah, yeah. That event is Heroes of Preservation, and so it'll be everybody's chance to meet, the folks who are, the board members who actually saved it, and all of that. So so that's a big event that's going on. I think first weekend in May, I believe that one is. So, and I just wanted to mention that I think it may have closed now, but Fairfax County Public Library had a Traveling While Black exhibit going on. It was at the Sherwood Hall Library the last few weeks, and it's virtual reality. And so if it ends up moving to a different library in Fairfax County, or if it's anywhere locally, you should go experience that. I mean, it's really very cool. And it's done at Ben's Chili Bowl. And so they brought in tables and chairs, and you put on the VR headset and sat at the table. And it was like a new way of doing oral history, because you had the person sitting across from you. You felt like you could reach out and touch them. And then you had people sitting in the booth with you. And at one point, like, I wanted to see, the person who's sitting next to me, their reaction. I just turned around and I thought, these people are not real. But here I am, like, looking over to see what they thought about what she was saying. And it really was remarkable. It's 360 degrees so that you can look around behind you and see what else is going on in the restaurant. It was extremely well done. So if you see that exhibit elsewhere locally, go see it.
All right, sounds good. Barbara.
Okay, I wanted to take this opportunity to thank Dr. Elizabeth Kroll for somehow putting the story of my professional story on the Park Authority blog, and then they put it on Facebook. So I was touched, and it was exciting and fun. It's interesting to read what you've done as an observer, and it's also really nice to do it while I'm still here.
Yes.
We hope that's a long time, Barbara.
Oh, thank you, Liz. That's most appreciated.
Yeah, and that was done in honor of Women's History Month.
It was Women's History Month. Yes, ma'am. I'm history, and that's what they say, a historian.
And you go all the way back to Germana.
Yeah, well, not me, but yeah, my genes. Yes. So anyway, thank you, Liz, very much. It was much appreciated.
It was very well deserved.
Thank you.
I see. Whoop, Denise, did you put your hand up and then take it down?
I was going to applaud and didn't realize that we didn't have the applaud button, but the applause button. Oh, that was an accident.
Anybody else have an announcement? Well, those were all pretty exciting and interesting events. So that sounds like some fun stuff to do. All right, I think if there is no other business, we can actually adjourn, and it's before 10:30.
Well, in Spain, it would just be early, so we can all have dinner now.
Exactly, yeah.
But some good things came up tonight, and I'm really grateful for the conversation about the budget and the clarification on the namings. That is so,
yeah.
It's nice that people come to us, so we need to be ready for.
Yes.
So
yeah, I mean that's the frustrating part.
We're not being recorded now, right?
So let us adjourn, and then we can shut off the recording. Denise.
Slam that gap.